This episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast is brought to you by Healing Hands International. I would like for you to think for a moment about how many times you have used water today. You probably brushed your teeth, took a shower, washed your hands, cooked, made coffee, washed your clothes, and even flushed the toilet a few times. How far did you have to walk for it? Across the bedroom? To the other side of the house? Did you know that every day millions of people all over the world get up and walk several miles to search for water? Not to mention that more times than not, the water that they do find is dirty and causes them to get sick. For the past 20 years, churches and individuals have been partnering with Healing Hands International to bring an end to the water crisis by drilling water wells and distributing water filtration systems. HHI empowers Christians to live out their calling to do good to all by providing local opportunities to make a global difference. If you want to be a part of this effort, you can get involved by coordinating a Walk for Water event. Walk for Water is a simple concept. If you want to host a walk, all you need to do is 3 things. Pick a date, find a location, and get people there. Healing Hands is going to take care of the rest. That's what they're doing for the one planned in our hometown of Florence, Alabama on April 18th at 2 p.m. at McFarland Park. If you want to learn more about how you can help people get clean water, please visit walkforwater.org/Ben and Travis. That's walk, the numeral 4, water.org/Ben and Travis. Join us in changing the water cycle today.
Welcome into the Helping Healing Humor podcast with Ben and Travis. This is part 2 of our interview discussing Walk for Water with Healing Hands International. Our prayer is that it will bless you as much as it has us.
We know we've been blessed with clean water. If you've ever been overseas, you recognize that, and there's places I've been, most places I've been have clean water to them, but not to us. But there are some places still in the world, obviously you guys are working, that even the locals can't drink the water without becoming very sick.
Yeah, and they drink it every day, but like it's not like I'm going to drink this and I'm going to get sick tomorrow. It's just that their kids are constantly sick. It's just habitually
exposed to a lot of
all the bacteria and stuff. It is like when you go there, if for those of you who've been on a mission trip, especially if you've gone somewhere without, when you see a 5-year-old for the first time bent over, hands and knees, drinking out of a mud puddle. It's just like, I don't know, how can you not want to do,
just understanding, wrapping your head around that, there are places in the world, it gets so easy to get, we're where we are and we're blessed to have what we have. And even in this country, we've got places that the drinking water isn't great. They've got issues and you want to fix those things. But to understand that for just a cup of water, right, as the song goes, or, that's pretty impactful for people to see it with their own eyes and experience it and talk to people who have. So, it's kind of like that first century, right? That's how the gospel spread, by word of mouth and experience. And, now we're blessed with that. Well, we can bless folks the same way.
Well, the same thing with, Jesus just said, if somebody's hungry, feed them. If they're thirsty, you give them something to drink. And that's where it starts. And you guys said, many of these are connected, if not to a church building, but to the church that is local, some of the people who are going out and making those things happen. And so a lot of good happening through the work at the church, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's funny. Just last week, actually, I was having a conversation with a gentleman from India. Their church is 920 members, and some of their water was contaminated with, I think, iron, too much iron to be healthy to drink it straight from the water source. And so they developed a system, a filtration type system that they could produce quite a bit of potable water. And so their church was filling up just all day long, constantly. They just fill up these milk jug type cartons with water. And then they take it throughout the community and just hand it out for free of charge to folks. And he was telling us how, I don't know if you're familiar much with the government of India. I'm surely not, but apparently they're, under Modi, there have been more stricter restrictions on Christians and solicitation laws. And you're not allowed to go to someone to ask them their religion or to tell them about the church or what have you. But they can come to you and ask you questions. And he said, as he was telling me, he goes, the funny thing about it is when you go to the same people and you hand them clean water every single day, They usually don't say anything to you the first day or the second day, and a lot of times not even the third day. By the fourth day, they come to the church and they ask you why it is that you're handing out clean water every day, and you get that opportunity.
Let me tell you about that.
Yeah, so they're seeing tremendous growth and success with that, and I mean, I suppose it's common sense, but
one thing that stuck out to me, and kind of like I had that aha moment when I was down in Haiti delivering Magi boxes a couple of years back. You see those people walking down to the river, and so y'all mentioned sometimes that they have to walk to these water sources. Like, when we think of walking to a water source, we don't think we're walking very far, but like how far are these? And I assume a lot of times it's the women that are the ones that are doing it. And how far are they actually going to just get water to provide for their families?
Yeah, so the average distance is 4 miles. So I'm not great at math, but I do know how averages work. And so that means there are people that are walking a lot more than 4 miles to get there. Actually, I got a story back. I think it was in Zambia recently. And during the dry season, these folks walked 10 miles one way during the dry season. So that's half of the year.
I can be at 4 spigots with clean water within about 20 steps of where I'm at right here.
Yeah, 10 feet.
It's crazy. But it is crazy to think somebody walks that far just to get something that they can drink.
Right. Yeah. So the UN, I think it's the UN actually has a stat though that's like, it's like 844 million people lack access to basic water service. And so what that means is that it's like 30 minutes round trip. So that may include, waiting at the water source, which is something that I think is a kind of an underrated part of it. It's like, you're not the only person in your village walking for water. Everyone else is too. So, you get there and you get a good long break, right? So you've got to wait in line for 20 minutes to even get to fill up your water jug, and then you come back. So about 30 minutes is like is a stat they use for how many people don't have basic water service. But yeah, so the average distance is 4 miles. And that's why with Walk for Water, we walk 4 miles. So there's like a significance in the amount of walking you do at a Walk for Water event.
It has nothing to do with John.For, right? John.For. It's just nice little how that works out,
It actually just plays in perfectly,
Yeah, that's awesome.
I went to a village. We were in Nepal, but I think we actually went across the border into India. And it was this just really cool little village. I always said if I disappeared one day, that's probably where I'll be. I mean, it was just this really neat little place. And there was a church up there. But it was up on top of this hill in the Himalayas, a hill. And they had to walk for their water down to the bottom of it and back up. And I think it was like a 2-mile trek, either down or down and back. And so when you're talking about 4-mile walk, not everywhere is a 4-mile flat walk. Some of these are, and most of the time it's the ladies doing that and the kids that are doing it.
Yeah, I don't think, and I don't want to say this categorically, but I'm pretty sure I've never seen a man walk in my travels, at least. And as you say too, on that point, so if it's a 3-mile walk and a 3-mile walk back, that 3-mile walk back obviously is much more challenging when you consider how much water weighs. I mean, you've all seen the images of girls with it on their heads, just because there's really no other way to carry that much weight for that far.
But you're talking about what you've got not only to drink for the day, but what they need to cook for the day. Yeah. And anything else that we just kind of pass off as unimportant. This is a life source they have to have for a lot of different things.
Yeah. And one of the things about it too is Colten usually says this when he speaks, is that if it takes you, I don't know about you, I don't walk 6 miles that quickly, so it's taken a good chunk of your day to do that every time. And so if it's kids walking, they're not going to school. I get stories back all the time from these countries, and girls will say, I'm going to school now because I have a well in my village. And that's just something it's just unimaginable that a child would not get even a shot at an education because she's got to go get clean water for her family. And so it's not even just like the health aspects of the community. It impacts people's ability to work, the women who are having to go walk, or the kids who can't go to school. It really it's one thing that impacts everything in a village, in a person's life. And so if you can just change that one thing, if you get water in a village, they can grow a garden. So that's food security. And for most of these folks, that's an income too, because then they can sell the excess that they've got at the local markets. But then for kids, it's education. So we get a lot of stories back where kids are, we drill some wells at schools too. And so prior to that, the kids would have to leave at lunch to go fetch water to bring back for the school. And so they're missing that whole afternoon education, So it's a lot of other things that you don't think about. It's not just clean water. It's really everything.
So every person that listens to this, and we're worldwide, we've got listeners in Europe, we've got listeners. India is probably one of our biggest country of listeners.
Somehow, we don't know.
Somehow, maybe Ricky Goodham's just working overtime. I don't know. He's spreading the Ben and Travis everywhere. But so every person that hears this, every person that sees it is going to be motivated to help in some way. So I'm sure that there's a website, that we've talked about writing the check. Go ahead and write that out. Where do they need to go to do that?
Yeah, here's what you need to do. I think if you're listening to this and you're like, hey, I want to do something about this, go to our website, hhi.org. You go up under, there's a tab that says Get Involved. When you hover over that, you're going to see Walk for Water. So you can click on that page, and that's going to show you all the walks we currently have on our schedule. See if there's one nearby, and if there is, join, walk, help fundraise, reach out to that coordinator, ask if you can help with that. If there's not one in the area, get with your youth minister or your pulpit minister or anyone else who's active, who you think would be a good candidate to get involved with this, and say, hey, let's do a walk here. It's super easy. I always tell folks, if you're interested, all we really need from you is a date, a location, and a plan to get folks to show up. And that is about it. Healing Hands is going to help you take care of most of the logistics and putting the thing on and getting it together. So if you do that, each walk that we do, we have a goal of one well, and most of the time we reach that. And so, if you, I think back to some of the coordinators who've been doing this for years with us, we just had a conversation over coffee, and they said, hey, I'd like to do this. And now when you look back, they would never take credit for it, obviously, but you look at like 20, 25 wells that have happened just because they made the decision to get involved with it. And so that would be what I would recommend to you.
And you go and, just like you're going to here in a few minutes here at Highland Park, you go and speak at churches and talk to churches about the different things, not just the Walk for Water, but just all the things that you guys do too.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, and it's a really cool thing. Like a couple of weeks ago, I spoke over at Florence Boulevard, and the next day we had a lady call that said, hey, I went to the website, I looked up this Women of Hope project you guys are doing, and I want to get involved with this project. And that happens all of the time. So when we, just being able to get up and tell folks the story, the folks who are active and want to be involved with something, they get on and they find, what matches their interest, where they could best serve. And so it really is sort of the catalyst for a lot that we do.
So what would you guys say if you just had a story like Gillian lets you start if you want to? How has being a part of this program, whether as a coordinator or working with it now full time, how have you seen God work? How has it impacted your life?
I'm willing to bet that I'm about to steal Colton's answer, so I'm glad you let me go first.
Anything we can do to make you look better than him, that's what we're all about.
It's not
certainly
very hard.
Appreciate it. No, a couple weeks, I really had this thought because he said it a couple weeks ago, so I know he's thought it before too. But really, I think, especially in the year 2020, there was a lot of negativity in the church about the church. And that, to me, was very discouraging as a Christian, because I just don't feel like that's what we're called to be. But at the same time, I was getting stories weekly from other countries. 5 people got baptized. I got to go talk to these people. These people are so thankful for this well. And, now I had a chance to plant the seeds. And so for me, working at Healing Hands and just being involved in works outside of America really has just shown me, the church is not the U.S. The church is not just in America. As it turns out, it's all over the world, and it actually didn't even start here. And so it's
what? Sorry, the podcast is going to be shut down after this.
No, and that to me,
blown.
yeah, it is hugely encouraging to know that God's church is everywhere, and you can find it anywhere you go. And people, it seems to me, even like you meet a physical need. That's spiritual. I mean, it just falls right into line. You see these people and they're like, why would these people do this for me? They don't know me. They will never meet me. Well, maybe not this side of heaven, right? Yeah. And that's the whole idea. It's that at some point you get to meet them, and
Jesus is king everywhere.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. And if you got a problem with that, you need to go find a new podcast. That's right. I think she just said you got a problem with that. You can go find. There's plenty of podcasts out there. Go change the channel, whatever. But that's right on. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, and so to me, that's what's been the most impactful. And I'll just tell you my favorite story, just real quickly. I was in Haiti, and as a coordinator, actually, before I was on staff. And, you go and we take some of our coordinators to Haiti when we can. And I got to see wells being installed in the different stages. And so there's just like this tension in the air when like you start to pump the well and they're like, all right, like, is water going to come out? And we all know it is. But the people in the community are standing around and they're just like, it's like Christmas Day, And so the water starts coming out and it's so amazing to me. Like, the adults go, they get a drink, whatever. They wash their face. Kids start having a water fight. I mean, because kids are kids. I mean, they are just the same no matter where you go. And so they're just so excited because now they have something new to play with, right? And so they don't even know how much this thing has just impacted their entire life. It's changed everything for them, but they just see it as something cool. You're going
to have to be careful because the waterworks are going to start right here because I'm tearing up a little bit hearing that. So
that to me was just incredible. I'm like, these kids in Haiti, hey, they're just like kids in America who run through a sprinkler in the summer. It's amazing. Yeah,
that's awesome. Well, do you have anything to add to that since she stole your answer?
Yeah, she did. She did a great job. I'm going to have to take notes. She told it much better than I typically do. But yeah, I would say in terms of the work and me just as an individual, I'm a pretty tender person, I guess. And so the whole component with kids, especially now, I have 2 kids. I have, that 4-year-old little girl. And every time I get up and do a presentation, I still, and it's genuine. It really is organic. I cry about 40% of the time. I wish I didn't because it messes the whole thing up. But to the part about kids drinking muddy water, it's just you can't do it without thinking about your own little girl, the fact that she doesn't have to do that. And so I would say, this is very selfish, I guess, to talk about the work this way, but every single day, I think about it. I think about it every single day when I'm tucking Raleigh Claire in or hugging her, just how lucky we are here that we don't have to worry about, is she going to get sick because of the water or what am I going to do because I haven't been able to feed her in 3 days or, there's some 50-cent vaccine that, would save her life or some medicine that I can't afford or whatever. And so, it's very easy to appreciate things just being exposed to it. And also I'm naturally a cynic. And so it's probably amped that up a little bit too, as, just talking about, church, just church, just any kind of community with folks and the things we get upset about and argue over. And it's sometimes difficult to be a part of those conversations when you have this other thing constantly that you're thinking about. So
God is on the throne.
Yeah.
Ain't nobody changing that.
Well, and the thing I always think about with that too is, if we are constantly fighting each other, we're not fighting the right battle. And if we're fighting the right battle, we're probably not fighting each other. So, finding and doing things like this keeps everybody's mind on track if you can find something to focus on like that.
Yeah, that's it. And nobody fights during the walk for water. It's just
That's
happy.
good.
It's just happy and good.
Maybe you need to add that. Me and Ben could come and
It's just
rumble.
add that element.
That might not be a bad idea, actually.
People come out to get us to stop. People would just come out to get us to stop. No, don't do it. Well, I think we covered our questions. Guys, got anything else in the serious vein? Want to make sure anything else we've left out that you guys want to cover before we switch gears a little bit?
I don't think so.
Here's one of my favorite questions to ask people. Number one thing that annoys you, that bothers you, that is just your pet peeve that you can't stand when it comes to other people or just life in general?
I do not like when people ask me a question and then tell me the answer.
Like I did a while ago.
Yeah.
when I guessed the movie, I did that. I'm just proud that I did that right here.
Like someone will say, maybe they'll say, like, what should I do here? You tell them, and they're like, okay, but I'm going to do this.
Yes.
This is good talk.
Thanks for wasting my time.
Correct.
I suppose the thing that's inauthenticity, like when, like, I don't mind folks who are like authentically rude. That's cool with me. Like, I get it, and I can see through it, and I can see who they are and what they're trying to do. But the folks who are like just this like kind of fake politeness, that to me, I guess I would say annoying. I just don't understand it more than anything. Perplexed by it. Don't know how folks live their life that way.
Colton would love my older brother. He has cerebral palsy, and he's never been able to speak, but he's never been able to hide his feelings. So, like, there are people who, he's kind of a rock star there in the area. And I've been at Walmart before where somebody will be like, "Hey, Bradley, how's it going?" And he just zooms right by him in his electric wheelchair, like nothing, like, done. You're not worth my time. And I get that. Like, I get the genuine, just don't have time for you, man.
Absolutely.
Hey, thank you guys so much for being with us. This has been awesome. It's been a good visit. I know we've all got to scatter our different ways, but thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, appreciate it. Good to see you.
Have you ever gone on a long journey or expedition? When you think of the words expedition or journey, images may come to mind of someone carrying a backpack loaded down with equipment, pushing through deep snow, ice picks in hand, headed toward the peak of a huge mountain. Or maybe it's an image of someone slashing their way through a thick jungle, or maybe someone riding off with sword in hand to slay a dragon. While these may be some of the more common images that can come to mind when thinking of an expedition, did you know that attending mental health therapy can be a lot like going on one of these journeys? Jocelyn Stevenson, a licensed marriage and family therapist, put it like this: before you start on your journey, you want to make sure you have the right equipment to help you avoid injury along the way. Even then, accidents can happen, and you may want to turn back and give up on the adventure. In therapy, the only equipment you need to get started is a motivation for change. As therapy continues, setbacks such as dealing with negative emotions, uncovering trauma, or feelings of discouragement may leave you wanting to quit. But as with any expedition, if you continue therapy, it can offer you the opportunity to discover new territory and claim victory over your challenges. The therapists at Serenity Counseling in Florence, Alabama, are here to help you when you begin your counseling journey. They will travel alongside you, encouraging, supporting, and advocating for you as you work to reach your counseling goals. Give their therapist a call or click the link in our show notes for more information. Thanks for being with us for this episode of the Helping Healing Humor podcast. Be sure to download our free ebook, 28 Days of Focused Living at benandtravis.com and receive all of our Helping, Healing, and Humor extra content directly in your inbox. We look forward to having you join us at the same Ben and Travis time, same Ben and Travis channel.